And frankly, the stuff that I'm most excited about, and I could talk about for hours, is really how we're leveraging artificial intelligence, specifically generative AI, in bringing this value to our customers.
It's never been this dangerous in the history of my career to have a business that's connected to the internet than it is today. And it probably will never be this safe again. It's only getting worse.
Welcome to this special episode of Sunny Silver Linings, focused on entrepreneurship, culture, and talent. Joining Sunny today, we have Stephen Freidkin, CEO, Entiva, and Brian Vestby, CEO, VC3. And remember, if you enjoy content like this, be sure to subscribe, like, and share. Now, here's your host, the founder and CEO of IT by Design, Mr. Sunny Kaila. Over to you, Sunny.
Ryan and Stephen, welcome to Sunny Silver Linings. I truly appreciate you being on my podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And so, Ryan, we're going to start with your entrepreneurial journey. It's so inspirational and it's amazing. So can you please share your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. Well, you know what, to be honest with you, I kind of fell into this. I don't necessarily view myself as an entrepreneur. When I started my career in IT, it was really truly by mistake. I had, at that time, when I was 21 years old, I played in a hard rock band, a professional hard rock band that toured the country, and we were recording CDs. And I had a hope and dream to be in the recording industry, and landed myself a first job with a company called CompuVision in Western Canada as their third employee hired. Had no IT experience whatsoever. You know, I took graphic design and multimedia in school, and I thought, computers, it'll just kind of translate over. When you find out very quickly, it doesn't. It's like calling somebody that owns, an oven, a chef, just because they own an oven. And I found out very quickly, there was some opportunity here for sure within the IT space, but I didn't know how much. I was 21 years old. It was a great business that could let me tour on the weekends and I could take holidays. But then I quickly realized that the opportunity within our space and in the organization, I had a really good founder, a guy named Bernard Bourgeois, who kind of nurtured me. He had a lot of patience with me in regards to, where I was going in my world. And, I slowly started kind of taking on new opportunities in the business. The one thing I always tell our people today is I said yes to everything. And, fast forward, I kind of had an opportunity to be in almost every role in the organization but finance. And in 2009, our founder came to us and he tapped me on the shoulder and he just said, "Hey, I think you're the guy. I'm not the guy anymore. I'm not the guy to lead us, into this next chapter." And I was 33 at the time, totally unqualified. I don't have my MBA. I have, maybe school of hard knocks, but I learned a lot of lessons playing in a hard rock band. I got to tell you, you learn how to, you learn how to sell, you learn how to market, you learn how to, figure out different things. So there were so many great lessons from like the band days that started to interject into the MSP business. And I always joke with my friends, I'm like, CompuVision and even VC3 now is, it's just my new band and we just have a better budget. And it's just a way better budget and it's a lot more fun. We have, have some great people along the way. But in 2009, I kind of took on the CEO role. And then it was really around, I looked at the world differently. I was willing to take more risk. I was not so, so held on to the past. And so we did a couple acquisitions. We tripled the business in kind of 6-7 years and kind of really grew and had some grandiose plans, started focusing on digitization. And then that led us to, our friends at VC3 who are based out of South Carolina. And we'd been in a peer group for 12 plus years. So Sandy Reeser, who was our CEO at the time, he just called and said, "Hey, I think we would be better together. We should figure out what that looks like." And here we are, so that's kind of the quick and dirty version of it, Sunny.
That's awesome. So I love it. Band to business. And a lot of learnings from band that you applied. And I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you, Ryan. And Stephen, I know we shared your journey, I think a couple of months ago when you were last time on Sunny Silver Linings. And I would like to take that again. So can you please share your entrepreneurial journey?
Sure, Sunny, and it's great to be here again, and it's an honor to be here with you, Ryan. And man, I always knew you were cool, but the rock band story, it's amazing. So my story is a little bit different, right? Like you were cool and a band guy. I was a total geek, and spending my time in middle school, and didn't have the most wonderful social life because I was very introverted and really liked technology. And frankly, I had terrible ADHD and wasn't doing great in class, and found myself skipping out of class all the time and crossing the street and spending my time at CompUSA. I just loved being there. I was able to play with the technology, learn new things, discover. And one day I happened to be there wearing a red shirt, which was what the employees wore. I was mistaken by a customer as one of the employees at CompUSA. They asked me some questions. I clarified that I was not an employee, but I helped this gentleman make that decision. He then asked me to go set it up in his home. I did some quick validation that he wasn't a child molester, figured out how to get take the bus, get to his home, set this up. He's an amazing individual. He actually ran a business with over 15,000 employees at the time. I went over to his house, set up his computer, had so much fun doing it. And then he wrote me a check for $75. And I walked out of his house going I can't believe somebody just paid me to do the thing that I love. And by the time I got in the bus and all the way back to my parents' house on, this tape-based answering machine, for those of you that even remember landlines and answering machines, I already had 2 referrals for other business owners to help with their residential IT needs just immediately. And I'll say that first customer that I referenced early on, I was maybe 14 years old. Maybe I was a little younger, but we'll say 14 for purposes of the record here. From a legal perspective of being able to work, he asked me to be an intern in his IT department. And then I was called up to the executive wing, and it was a physically separate piece of this building. I walk into this, and there's the CEO, the CFO, the COO, this whole group of people, and they're asking me to help them with their technology inside of their executive wing. And I'm very confused. And I asked him, why are you using the 60 people that you have downstairs? They're amazing. They have more experience than me. I'll figure it out. I'll work hard here. But why aren't you using them? And they turned to me and they said, look, we have a family-owned business. We make good money. We don't want what we're doing with those resources to be water cooler conversation. So we thought we would ask you to do this because you're not really going to be here. And I know you'll keep this confidential. And that was my aha moment. And I went, oh my goodness, I could care less about what you're doing with your resources inside of your company. All I want to do is help you use technology to achieve your goals. And that's when, to me, this is well before even managed IT services was a name out there. It clicked and I went, we got to be able to provide this in a way that can be outsourced for companies. So time continues. I wound up going to the Smith School of Business at the University of Maryland. Many of these residential-only customers start to convert to commercial businesses. Business is bootstrapped from, right the day that I started it to 2016 when we were about 80 full-time employees and $18 million in revenue. At the end of 2016, I partnered with a private equity sponsor, my first one. And then in January of 2022, we had our proverbial second bite of the apple. We've completed 1 acquisition. We have a couple under LOI in this, very exciting market that we're in, following exactly the same approach that we have in the past, but mixing in some kind of next generation technologies.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Stephen. Amazing entrepreneurial journey. Congratulations on your success. So I want to go into now a little bit of our question of, if someone is going to start their journey, either as a buyer or seller, what are some of the biggest differences in running a private or a public, a PE-backed MSP?
And I'll say the biggest differences that I've noticed from, I'll call it private versus private equity, is the maturity of accountability, the structure. When I think about numbers and when we're setting our budget and we're setting our rocks for our year and our quarter, I could say historically in a private business, we'd set a marker out in the future. And if we got close to it, it's okay. We would just lay out more runway and maybe we'll get it to it next quarter. That was a big difference in a good way. I feel like we're way tighter on our budget. We kind of know where we're tracking. If we say something for the next quarter, we're gonna do our best to hit it and kind of really structure. So that was a key difference. The other one was really prominent for me is around M&A. It's just a whole different ballgame if you're going to do mergers and acquisitions with a capital partner. Just the way the capital structure is, the availability of funds, how you value them, what the valuation looks like in tomorrow's world when you acquire and now they become part of your organization. It's almost the way I describe it. It's almost an unfair advantage. There's no way I could compete and try to get the same deal. I couldn't offer the same value. I couldn't offer any of these, attributes that you have when you're a larger organization to have a capital partner. So those are probably the two major ones that just stick out in my mind early days. But I'd love to hear Stephen's thoughts because this is his second turn.
Yeah, Stephen.
Thanks, Ryan. And look, you covered two great ones there, which I probably would have led with. So then, with that said, let's go into PE, right? Because there's so much of the world that says, well, PE doesn't care at all about people and they're all about numbers and this, that, and the other thing. So like, what's the difference between running by business now than before? And Ryan, to your point, I'd say the first is really around operational maturity and data reporting and understanding, right? So at first, when this came about, I'm like, oh my goodness, we're just going to be measured by numbers, and I'm gonna do all of these things. Is this going to pull me away from my core mission? And I was cautious about it, and I hired the best people to support me in getting this data. And then what I realized was, once we had this data, we're actually able to use it to drive towards our core purpose. It's not just about profitability. Sunny, to your point about earning people and the money comes. It's the same idea here. Understanding the data and the indicators that lead to what we would define as success in growing people, by very default, it also drives the profitability and the growth of the company. So, to add to Ryan's point, I'd say, really the idea of managing the business to data as opposed to just gut. Right. So that was the huge shift for me, gut to data. The other thing I'll throw out, and then I'll leave it at this because we've covered a lot and, we can certainly go more, is the concept of needing to manage up. Right. So Ryan, I think in your journey, as you went along up until you became CEO, you always had people you reported up to until that point. To me, there was no one to report up to. And that actually created challenge for me. Right? Like I was in my own echo chamber. When I was concerned about things, I would talk to people in my circles, but they wouldn't actually be involved in the business. They may not even understand the industry. That was huge for me. And it was at first a little bit challenging. Like, oh my goodness, this is a whole nother job that I have to do and I have to manage. And I was first frustrated by it. But then I was like, this is exactly what I need to make sure we keep focused on the things that are going to allow us to scale and grow effectively together. And I've been very grateful for it.
I do want to get into culture piece a little bit deeper as a follow-up question. And Stephen, this time we're going to start with you. Can you describe your culture at Intiva? Like, what is that one or two words that can differentiate pre-PE versus now with PE culture?
In terms of the culture at Intiva, we are people first, period, end of story, right? We exist to grow each other. This all started, in my journey, I didn't have intention, right? Like we bootstrapped the company, grew year over year by word of mouth or referral. Our customers stayed, our employees stayed. It was great energy inside of the company. It was then that I noticed there was a material change in the business energy. And it wasn't bad. Things were still fine, but it became more of like a 9-to-5 environment versus a place where people were really living to work and engaging and having community. And that was what I really loved. And it actually took that moment for me to be able to step back and go, oh, that's exactly what I want. And it's not happening exactly how it used to. Well, why is that? And it ultimately was because everybody knew what we did, how we do it, but not why. And that why became the core of everything. And it's really that idea of growing each other and using technology to accelerate that growth.
So people first and promote from within. And thank you, Stephen. And Ryan, how would you briefly describe your culture?
Culture for me, though, I look at, there's two things. What's interesting, what I've also inherited is I have two countries. We have Canada and the United States, which are vastly different in regards to just their makeup and what that looks like. So it's an interesting dynamic that I try to bring, I'll say, the best from both of those countries together. And I think you can inject and weave in some of the great traits of Canadians, but the great traits of Americans as well. And I use these two words interchangeable, humble and hungry. And I think about these two cultures, and we've got humility and we've got hunger and drive. And those two things coming together become really, really important. And I think part of our success. But I have this saying, and I shout it from the rooftops everywhere I go within the walls of VC3. And it goes like this. It goes, I want it so no idea is left behind here. And there's no process set in stone.
Absolutely. And one way I look at business is that, there is no competition when you are solving your top customers' problems in a way, whatever their dangers are, you are eliminating their dangers, and that becomes your opportunities. What are the top challenges that you see? One or two top challenges that your customers, their dangers that you are focused on eliminating?
So our goal has always been to, I'll do a hockey thing since I've got my Canadian friend on the line here, the Gretzky state where the puck will be, right? And I feel deeply that at the core of what we deliver, once it's become a competitive necessity, it's all about operational excellence, the ability to deliver it cheap, fast, efficient. So where I think things are going right now, especially in the SMB market, is around the concept of digital transformation. And we see that as the biggest opportunity. And to double click, like, what the hell does that even really mean? We're talking about understanding the dispersed landscape of different applications and workflows that they have, and helping them take steps out of their process by integrating those applications, deduping it so that we know the information is correct, extracting data and being able to use that data in an intelligent way. And this can be application development, custom applications. It can be working on APIs, making connections, doing business workflow analysis. And frankly, the stuff that I'm most excited about, and I could talk about for hours, is really how we're leveraging artificial intelligence, specifically generative AI, in bringing this value to our customers. So I'll pause there for Ryan to jump in.
Thank you. Thank
Love
you, Stephen. Same question to you, Ryan.
Competitive necessity. I love it. People that are listening, write that down. That's great.
Yes.
It's great. It's a great way you frame that up, Stephen. I totally agree. I think how you leverage technology and when you jump in is a big part of it. I would say in our business, 65% of our book of business is local government. So we take care of cities, towns, counties, special districts, police departments, and so that versus commercial is they're a little bit slower on the adoption curve. There's some budgets and constraints and those type of things. But the one thing that is universal, I'll say, where it's at right now, and Stephen touched on it, and we probably do a whole podcast on that, is around cyber risk. And so I have this saying that it's never been this dangerous. It's never been this dangerous in the history of my career to have a business that's connected to the internet than it is today. And it probably will never be this safe again. It's only getting worse. And so where I see this moving for sure, and this is short term when I look at where we're going, is like there's a level of non-negotiables that are happening. And really what's driving this is a big part of it is cyber insurance. I always tell people, if you want to find out if you're healthy or not, go get life insurance. They're going to tell you. It's the best way to know. And so it's the same analogy. You want to know if you have good cyber hygiene, go get cyber insurance. Because we're at a point now in today's world where they're like, if you don't have these things, we'd never insure you.
I love the way he explained it. So what I'm hearing is that it's mainly looking at your customers' needs in terms of their, like, what can give them competitive advantage. And I loved it the way you explained it, Stephen, the competitive necessity before it becomes competitive necessity. And it's mainly cybersecurity, AI, and that's the key kind of dangers that customers are kind of looking at, like how AI is going to impact their business.
Opportunities, right? Like there's risk and opportunity with all of it.
With all of that, yeah. So AI and cybersecurity is the biggest opportunity area, and that's where we need to focus. And I did forget to ask one follow-up question from you, Ryan, and this is on a lighter note. Now, you were explaining Canada and US and having that culture on both sides. And the word that come to my mind, normally my in-laws are in Vancouver, British Columbia. And I don't know if when I go there, I have to say A after everything that I say. And then process, how do they say process, not process?
I don't think about A only seems to come out. I don't even think I've said A on this podcast. That only comes out of no, it comes out when you have a few drinks. That's where the default shows up for the A. But I will tell you the word process or process is always a hot topic in our world. And it's funny, I always seem to get it wrong depending on what side of the border I'm on. So I'm always conscious of it, but I think everyone understands it. And I'm fine to get a few ribs either way. And doesn't matter. It always shows up every time when we're in some type of room. And it's amazing how much we say process or process in our world, in the MSP ecosystem, because I feel like it's everywhere. So it's a good point.
So for me, the problem is even bigger because some of words that I will say with the Indian accent, some of them are, now I have Philippines, a big team, and I have learning a lot of like a little bit of Filipino accent as well. Fun. So then here within the US, you go to many different MSP partners in Texas to every part of the world is different. So that was like something I'm like, what did he adopt when it comes to culture norms in terms of Canadian and US culture? But gentlemen, thank you so much for coming to my podcast. I truly appreciate you coming and sharing your journey and your wisdom and experience with the MSP community. And thank you so much.
Thanks, Sunny.
Our pleasure. It was fun.
Thank you for watching Sunny's Silver Linings. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.